Okay, hi, hello. Welcome to another YouTube video. I haven't made a YouTube video in a little while because I've been really busy. I've gone back to uni, I've been working, so yeah, I've been busy. Leave me alone. This is gonna be my February wrap up, so that means it's like a month since I posted my first YouTube video, which is so exciting. I've been really enjoying doing YouTube videos and being able to slow down with my thoughts a little bit instead of the fast-paced nature of TikTok. Not that I don't love TikTok. So I read 13 books in February. I have started 2 other ones, which I'm excited to be finishing in March, which are The Fastest Way to Fall and The Wolf and the Woodsman, which is so good so far. Both of them are so good so far. But these are just gonna be... Okay. Okay. I've sorted myself out. I'm just decided I'm not going to pile all of them on my lap anymore. So this is just going to be my February wrap up of all the books that I finished this month. So yeah, I'm just going to jump in with the rereads first. So my 3 rereads this month were Normal People, Sally Rooney, Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert, and The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I read Normal People for my book club, which is in the link tree linked below if you want to join for the March book. We haven't decided on what it is yet, but it looks like it might be The Charm Offensive, which is good. So I've heard. My thoughts on Normal People are kind of complicated. I think as a book, it does a very good job of kind of telling you why we're there, what we're getting out of the characters, but it doesn't really ever come across to me that the point is anything other than just like trying to make you upset or trying to make you depressed, because this is the reality of these normal people, which, don't get me wrong, is not necessarily a bad thing. Some books, the only purpose that they serve is teaching you a lesson, and I think this book is at a little bit of a risk of being glorified and romanticized in this relationship, when in reality this relationship is extremely toxic, and no matter what, they will always go back to each other. Even though neither of them really thrive with each other, they always thrive apart. I think also there's a very interesting comment on classism, but I wish it had been delved into deeper. I think the classism could have been such a larger part of Marianne's journey, and I think to see her come to a realization about her classism and her inherent privilege in her life, and instead we didn't get that realization, we just got an acknowledgement of it, but she still didn't understand when Connell did things that he did because of his experience as a middle to lower class person. I do think it's not super accessible as a literary fiction. I think partly because of the lack of quotation marks. I don't know, I'm a little bit, I know it's a divisive thing, the whole no quotations thing. I don't really mind it. I did annotate it, which I really liked doing, but you know, it's one of those books that you don't either love it or you hate it. I feel like most people are kind of just like on the fence about it. I'm on the fence about it. I don't ever enjoy reading it. This is my second reread, and both times I didn't enjoy reading it, but I like talking about it, if that makes sense, and I like the after effect, and the ending, I love the ending because it's so sad and so depressing. Act Your Age, Eve Brown is the 3rd book in the Brown Sisters trilogy. You can read them out of order, it doesn't really matter, but if you read this first, you're going to get spoilers for the first 2, but I personally believe that this is the best out of the 3. Eve is just such a great character. Jacob is such a great character. All of the characters in this book are amazing. Don't get me wrong, I love Danny, I love Chloe, I love Zaph, I love Red, but yeah, I just think that this relationship and the motivations behind the relationship is just so much more wholesome and so much more like, I'm so much more invested in this book. So if you don't know anything about this book, it's a Grumpy Sunshine novel about Eve, who's the youngest Brown sister, who basically she can never really find a career path that she likes or wants to stick to, and eventually her parents are threatening to cut her off, so she has to she pretty much runs away to the countryside, and she finds a B&B who are looking for a chef. And since she's had so many ragtag careers, she's able to be this chef. And then she accidentally backs over Jacob with her car. And then so she has to stick around and help him run the B&B because he's got a broken arm. Anyway, it's just such a feel-good book. I mean, here are my tabs, so you can see there's a lot of pink going on there. It's sweet, it's spicy, it's definitely for my 0 for 18 girlies. And yeah, I really recommend it. Jacob is on the autism spectrum, and there is autistic coded characters, and yeah, it's just excellent. Very well done, Talia Hibbert, I love you. And the third reread of the month was The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I really enjoy this book. I know a lot of people don't, but every time I read it, it makes me want to watch Star Wars since it is based off Reylo fanfiction. So I read this book in like a morning, and then the rest of the day I just watched the new trilogy or the sequel trilogy of Star Wars, which was so fun. Here are my tabs. You can kind of tell which chapter is chapter 16, which is the infamous chapter. Yeah, it's sweet, it's fun. It has a very well executed subplot. It has a very well executed fake dating line, and I love fake dating. And yeah, as a second reread, it definitely held up against the test of time. Okay, and now for the new books I read this month. I'm first going to start with Anne of Manhattan because a lot of people have been asking me to do a review. I did do a review over on my TikTok, but yeah, so this was very sweet. I rated it a 4. I know that last month I said I was kind of getting rid of the rating system, but a lot of people were asking me what I thought of it, and the only way I can really tell you is that saying I rated a 4. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't terrible. I did make a TikTok that got quite a lot of views about it, and lots of people were saying it's not that spicy or whatever. They were disagreeing with what I was saying, but I think it's a very interesting conversation to have on what that spicy means. Like for me, this was a perfect amount of spice. You know, there's a couple like sexual interactions, and that was all that was really needed for this story. I wouldn't want any more, especially because it's based off a children's book. Yeah, it was a great continuation of the Anne of Green Gables story. I wouldn't really say it was a retelling, as it's like in an older setting, and it's after the events of the original Anne of Green Gables novels. And a lot of people were saying that they don't like that it was set in Manhattan, which I think is kind of integral to the story, the setting of moving away and moving to somewhere like Manhattan after coming from Avonlea, which is, you know, such a small farmy town, and this is literally New York, like. And yeah, Anne and Gilbert were so cute. All the side characters were amazing, and yeah, I would recommend it if you're looking for a sweet romance novel. It's Imogen from the future here. I also read Heartstopper Volume 4, but I don't have the physical book, and then it wasn't in my pile, so I just forgot to say that I read it. But I did. I read it, and I loved it, and it was the best, and I'm so excited for the 5th one, if there's going to be a 5th one. I can't believe I forgot. It was so good. The Layover by Lacey Waldron. I read The Layover at the beginning of the month, and to be honest, I don't remember heaps that happened. I remember quite liking it. I do remember that the love interest was called Jack, which I don't know what that is, but something about the name Jack just kind of irks me. I don't know, that's like an unreasonable thing, but it is definitely a slow burn. Buckle your seatbelt for this because it takes ages to hit the point, but it's a great story about like kind of accepting what you actually love and not accepting what people say you should love, in the way that our main character Ava is wanting to retire from being a flight attendant, but then she kind of discovers that she doesn't really want to retire from being a flight attendant. She's just being told she should want to retire since she's had such a nomadic life. So yeah, it was pretty good. Very slow burn, but I enjoyed it. Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rainy Eder Lodge. I read this and I listened to the audiobook at the same time. Honestly, this was just fantastic. I don't read heaps of nonfiction, but I was wanting to read this month as I got it for Christmas, and oh my god, fantastic. I can't say anything. I mean, my validation as a white person doesn't really matter to a book like this, so it's like, you know, do I even need to say how good it was? But if you're thinking about reading it or you're hesitant about reading it, it's got a lot of historical elements, a lot of really, really interesting British history that I had no idea about, which is kind of the point of the book. But yeah, it was excellent. 10 out of 10, 5 stars. Definitely recommend. I know I said I wasn't doing stars, but I'm doing stars for this. So One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I absolutely adored this. There were a couple of things that just did not hit, but apart from that, it was great. I loved August. I loved Jane. Jane was... I can't even get into Jane because I'll say some things I don't want to say on the internet. I loved the setting and I loved all the side characters. Again, it was such a well-rounded collection of side characters. It was entertaining, it was sad, it was happy, it was just everything. The time travel plotline thing wasn't super well executed in my opinion. I wish there was just a little bit more on really what was going on there, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I'd recommend it. Yeah. How the King of Elfame Learned to Hate Stories. I love this. I got this for my birthday in January. I am a big fan of The Cruel Prince of the Folk of the Air series, and I was so excited to read this because I didn't I didn't read it when I read all the other ones, and it was just so cute. I mean, it's very short. It's just a collection of short stories from Carden's point of view about his life, and I know, like, I was so happy to get a little bit more Jude Carden, but I was also so happy to learn a bit more about Carden's story and his childhood and everything like that. So yeah, it was really good. And the last story is just perfect. I loved it so much, and Holly Black should be commended for her work. Verity by Colleen Hoover. This was a twisty thriller with heaps of sex, like frankly heaps, and an unnecessary amount in my opinion for what the book was trying to do. Colleen Hoover does get criticized for kind of basically being trauma porn, and this book does fall into that category a little bit. I did really enjoy it though. All the twists and turns kept me on the edge of my seat. I read it all in one sitting. I made a couple TikToks about it that were kind of comical because the ending was just blew me away. I'm not going to say anything about it apart from that it's kind of gory, or not gory, but like the first line is like his head smashed open on the pavement and blood gushed everywhere. So just keep it in mind. It is about death, mystery. It's very interesting and a little bit scary. So what more could you ask for? Definitely my favorite of Colleen Hoover's books. I've read It Ends With Us and Ugly Love and this one's definitely by far my favorite. A Very Nice Girl by Imogen Crimp. This was so good and also so bad. And I mean bad in like the way that it frustrated the fuck out of me. It was such a great literary fiction, and I think it was her debut, so commended for that as well. She did a really awesome job of really making us hate a lot of characters, and even our main character Anna, she can just be so insufferable at times, but this book is really about not letting misogyny dictate you, but also just like sometimes you can just tell people to fuck off, basically. Not falling into toxic cycles and not giving up on something just because someone says you should, but in a roundabout literary fiction way. I haven't really seen many reviews for it, so I would be interested to know if anyone's read it, what they thought. But yeah, really good. Set in London. I do love things set in London. No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. Oh, this was just disturbing. I can't think of another word to say it. It was disturbing, it was short, it was freaky. I just was like on the edge of my seat for a very big chunk of it. It was just completely different from anything I've ever read. I would recommend if you're over 18 and you can handle weird psychological thrillers, or not even thrillers, just like psychological deep dives, I guess. I haven't read American Psycho, but it was kind of recommended to me as American Psycho but Japanese, so I think in the way that the main characters are really similar. Yeah, it's freaky in a good way. I recommend. Yeah, if you're over 18. My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. This was excellent. I got this for Christmas from one of my friends, and I was waiting to read it, and I just decided I would read it this month. It was just like fucked. I don't know how else to explain it. Like the amount of kind of times that I would be like screaming at the book that this white, incredibly privileged woman had so many problems that she had to take a whole year off. I can't explain the ending without ruining the book, but the ending I definitely expected, but I was also still caught off guard, if that makes sense. Like the way that it was executed was so well done that even though I pretty much knew what was going to happen, I was still like emotional about it. And yeah, it was very well done. Definitely one for my unhinged girlies. It does kind of teeter off the edge of unhinged into like really deranged land, but it is very good and I enjoyed it and I would recommend it. And last but not least, 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. 7 Days in June was just spectacular. I had so many good reads this month, but this was just one of my favorite reads of the month. I read it all in one sitting again. So some really good ones, but yeah, this was just, I'll read the quote on the top from Jodi Picoult. A smart, sexy testament to Black joy. I absolutely loved it. I couldn't agree more, Jodi. It was so fun. It was so sad, and it reminds me so much of the line from All Too Well. Did the twin flame bruise paint you blue? Just between us did the love affair maim you too? That is this book. Like, just between us did the love affair maim you too is just like, I can't. Anyway, I loved Ava and Shane so much, and they were just my besties. I was like so attached to them, and I'm gonna read it again. I definitely am gonna read it again. I think Tabit as well, because it was so excellent. I'm excited to also see what else Tia Williams, read some more of her stuff, or see what else she comes out with. But yeah, Reese Witherspoon, I trust her with my life. I trust her implicitly. And Tia Williams, honestly, I trust her implicitly, because this was such a good book. Whatever she writes next, I think is going to be an insta buy for me. Anyway, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Definitely recommend if you're looking for an accessible lit fic that doesn't take itself too seriously, but also discusses serious topics in a respectful way. Trigger warning, this does have mentions of SH. It has mentions of slide, has mentions of racism, and yeah, it's definitely look it up for yourself, but it's a lot. And yeah, but it was so good, like it was worth it. But yeah, it was amazing. I loved it. It was definitely, I don't know. I had so many good reads this month. Of my new reads, I think this was my favorite. Yeah, it was so good. I'm so excited to read it again, and I'm recommending it to everyone I've ever met at the moment, which is something I do when I like start loving a new book, is I'm like, you have to read this one, and I'm gonna like lend it to all my coworkers. And yeah, I loved it. Definitely recommend for my over 18 girlies as well. So yeah, that was my February wrap up. I can't believe I read so many books in such a short amount of time, considering there's 4 less days. I could usually put like one more book in 4 extra days. I'm excited to see what March holds. I have a lot of uni though in March, or for the rest of the year really. So I think March will be an under 10 book month. So I was happy to get a good amount in this semester, this month, I mean. And yeah, I'd be really interested to know what everyone else read this month, or if they've read any of these and what their thoughts were. And yeah, so it was really nice chatting with you, and I will see you next time.